Hello everybody and welcome back to our channel. We are Brigade of Beans, a diagnosed dissociative identity disorder system. My name is Tempest and this video is all about grounding. So to begin this video, let's discuss what grounding is. Grounding is the opposite of disconnection. It is the opposite of dissociation. It is reconnecting and making oneself present in one's environment, in oneself, and in the present day. There are many different types of grounding exercises. Some very common ones are the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, going through the different senses. And another very common grounding exercise is breathing exercises. But there is much more to different grounding exercises than just those two very common examples. Whilst the title of this video does specify dissociative identity disorder, grounding skills do not just have to be used by those with DID or OSDD or dissociative disorders. Every single person in the world dissociates. Not everybody dissociates to a clinical level, not everybody dissociates to a distressing level, but everyone will experience dissociation at some point in their life. And therefore most people will benefit from grounding skills. However, the grounding skills that we're going to go through in this video are what work for us as a DID system, and some of them are specifically tailored towards DID systems, or the way that I'm going to discuss them are targeted towards, and not just DID systems, systems in general, but are targeted towards those people who are plural. But anyone, plural or not, is welcome to use this video to learn grounding skills, to practice grounding skills, and to maybe help foster some ideas for some grounding skills that you can use in your daily life to help decrease dissociation and help you feel more present in your reality. One thing that we very much struggle with our grounding skills is remembering to use them and to remember what they are. So part of the reason we are making this video is so that we can watch it back and remind ourselves of grounding skills that help us. If you are someone who also forgets what grounding skills they have, forgets how to use them, I recommend keeping a list somewhere, whether that is in a journal that you have, in your phone notes, pinned to your wall, like a printed out list or a written out list, just somewhere that when you are distressed, it is easy for you to find. DID, OSDD comes with memory issues, and so it can be very easy to forget that you have these skills, and not every part within a system will have access to these skills. So having it somewhere where you can easily access it, and it's not only the name of the skill, but how to use that skill, can be very beneficial for navigating that amnesia that can occur, and to help bring everyone in the system online with finding a grounding skill that resonates and works for them, or preferably multiple different grounding skills that each individual alter can use that works for themselves. I'm going to break the guided how-to grounding skills down into 5 parts. The first is breathing exercises, the second is sensory experiences, the third is body-focused grounding, the fourth is environmental grounding, and the fifth is grounding to your sense of self, your personhood. I'm putting breathing exercises first because it's the ones we struggle the most with. We really struggle with guided breath work. We really struggle with counting our breaths, and that is not something that works for us. So we're putting it first because it's going to have the least information. There's going to be no guided exercises. If breathing exercises work for you, there are hundreds of videos out there of different breathing exercises that you can search up. Guided breathing exercise, box breathing, 4-4-4 breathing. I think that's the same as box breathing. I'm not sure. But there are plenty of breathing exercises videos. But I'm going to talk about very quickly what did work for us when it comes to regulating our breath. That was unintentional, but the first is yawning. We tend to yawn a lot when we are switching. So this isn't just full switches. I, Tempest, am still here, but people in the background just changed around, just had a little reshuffle, and we yawned. Our body naturally takes a big deep breath, which is what a yawn is, when we switch, because we are coming in and leaving, and it helps regulate our body. We don't just yawn when we switch. We yawn for so many different reasons. We also just yawn when we are dissociated and our body, without our conscious decision, is trying to ground itself and regulate itself. The second breathing thing that helped us was co-regulation. So that was having somebody else in the space with us, keeping their breath calm, keeping their breath regulated, not saying anything, not specifically going deep breath in, deep breath out, not doing that, but just keeping their breathing consistent. Keeping their breathing consistent helped it feel safe and helped also then regulate our own breathing. The third breathing one that works for us is blowing bubbles. So whether that's blowing bubbles like into a cup or having an actual bubble mixture, because again, that's that exercise of taking a deep breath in and then blowing it all out. And it's a way that we can then have fun doing it, and it works especially well for our younger parts when it's then not so much focused on the body sensations that come with deep breathing and counting and all of that. And similar to that as well, if bubbles don't work, you can also try blowing up balloons. And you can either keep a bunch of balloons or you can just deflate them once you've done that big breath. Hi everybody, it is Maisie, and I'm going to start going to the next category, which is grounding with your senses. So these include the 5 senses that everybody thinks of: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. So starting with sight. Our favorite visual grounding exercise is we call finding the rainbow. What that looks like is whatever room you're in, whatever environment you're in, trying to find one object per color of the rainbow. If you're very distressed and you aren't very cognitively there, and your first step is just to get into the space. So that is just to find objects of that color. So you start at red, you'd find something red. I'm going to use the thing behind me, but I'd be like, there's red in that boat. And then move on to orange. There's orange in this teddy. And then move on to yellow, and so forth through the whole rainbow. We then also tend to add on pink, black, white, and grey. And then once we've done that, if we're feeling a little bit more grounded, we'll start again, and then we'll describe it. So there's and we can either describe it out loud if we feel safe enough to do so, or just in our head, especially, we'll do it in our head, especially if we're in an environment where there's lots of other people. But I can be like, there is a red Lego brick as part of a build of one of Moana's boats. It is small, it is about the size of my finger, and it is flat, and I describe it in as much detail as I can. I then move on to, there is orange in this teddy. The teddy is about the size of my hand. The orange is quite a pale orange. It is stripes that go across the teddy, and I just describe it in as much detail as I can, and then do that for every single object. And that exercise, that process, brings you out of your head and into your environment, but it is using your eyeballs to do so. The second visual grounding thing we do is just looking back and forth from either side of the room. So from the left to the right, from the left to the right, and trying not to move our head to do it, and just moving our eyes. Sometimes we'll try to find something in the corner of the eye and describe it, and then that way, or sometimes it's just the process of moving our eyes. And that one is very, very helpful when our body is very locked up, either when we're going into or coming out of a freeze response, and a lot of our body is still quite shut down. Often our hand movements and our eye movements are what we get back first, so we can use this to then try and encourage our body to start moving again. Another sight-based one is expanding your field of view. So this is also quite good if you are quite small and hunched up and stuck in a very narrow field of vision. Start with something very close to yourself and look at it and describe it if you can. So for example, that might be my hands, and then I move out and I might move to the weighted lap blanket that's on my lap, and then I might move out and I might focus on the chair that my tripod's on, and then I might move out and I might focus on the back wall of the study, and then I might go out and then I might focus on a car that's on the street, and then I might focus on a tree that's across the street, and I then keep going for as far as I can see. And then that helps bring me out of the very small locked-in space that I am, and expand out and out and out and out. That can be hard to do when you're in a very small room or you're in a small environment, but especially if you're outside or your narrow window, you can go quite far. The second sense-based one is hearing. So the first audio grounding thing that really helps us a lot is listening to our cats purr, and that's obviously not always accessible because I'm not always going to be purring. Brandy is at the moment. I doubt the camera's picking it up, but I can feel and hear her purring. But you can look up like recordings of cats purring, all that sort of thing, and listen to that. And I find it very soothing and very grounding because cats purr when they feel safe. and it's letting my body know that I am safe because the cat is perceiving the environment as safe. If I can't listen to her purring because she's not purring or she's not there, then I can look up recordings of it online, and I do also have some recordings on my phone. The second audio-based one is going to be connecting into your environment a little bit more, and that's going to be finding different sounds. So you're going to try and tune in to one sound in particular, and then name it, describe it if you can, and then tune into a different sound. So for example, I might tune into Brandy purring, and then I might tune into the traffic on the road outside, and then try to listen for other sounds. There's not many sounds in my house at the moment, but it depends on the environment that you're in. The next audio-based one is going to be listening to music. This works especially well if you are a system who has strong front triggers with songs, and if you as an alter are kind of dissociating and you want to ground yourself into front more, then you can listen to your specific playlist or your specific song, and that can really help bring you into the present. But even if you're a system who doesn't have a strong connection to music as individual alters, listening to music can still help really ground you into the present. We do struggle listening to music a lot, as it tends to bring up a lot of emotions, and whilst it can be very good with connecting to present emotions, it can also sometimes pick up on past emotions, and so you just have to be careful and aware of yourself and how music affects you as to whether or not listening to music or specific songs is going to be more beneficial or more detrimental at a given situation. I believe that touch was next. So the first one for touch is to have an object in your hand and then describe how each of it feels. So, for example, I am holding something that is about the size of my hand. It is very, very squishy. It has a large protrusion on one side, which narrows at a point and has two, well, I know that is because I know it's a dog, but two slight protrusions on that bulbous area, and then there's a long body part with a small pointy bit at the end, and then there are four pillars that come off one side of it that are hollowed out that I can stick my finger into, and it stretches, it squishes, and it's quite smooth, and it's about the same temperature as my hands. And I just described the object. The next touch-based grounding one is to have a safe pain-seeking stim. So I have this Calm Buddy, that's what they're called. If you search them up, they come up. But it has some points on it, and you can just press your finger into it. And that is in a safe level of pain that can then help bring your brain around. Another similar one is this. It looks like a dog toy. It's not. It's, I think, it was a peanut something. But again, it has those points that then hurt but don't actually do any harm. And you can push it together, and you can get quite a lot of sensory feedback out of this. And it can help bring your brain back into the present environment. I don't think this quite qualifies as touch, but I don't know where else to put it. But weighted items. So I have this weighted lap blanket that I'm using that also helps ground us. We have a full-size weighted lap blanket. We also have weighted teddies, and those that pressure, this has the same as having somebody else lie on top of you, having a pet lie on top of you. We used to have Great Danes, and they would used to lie on us. And that pressure and that feedback would help make us feel more present and more real and more alive. Using your hands, like interacting with your hands. I don't know how else to put it. So something that we do is we go like this, and we just repeat this over and over. We'll often also count. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we'll count in that pattern. We like counting by threes, and that will help soothe. Or we will do it this way, and we'll go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that then helps, it's that feedback, like saying, rubbing your hands together really fast to warm them up, clapping your hands together, clicking your fingers, all of that kind of sensory feedback. It can also be your butterfly taps. So there is guided ones that can probably do it better than I can, but It's sitting there and it's alternating taps on each side. You can also tap pressure points. I'm not sure where a lot of them are. I think there's ones on your temples, but that sort of thing, and get that sensory feedback. You can also do things like twiddling your thumbs, wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes, moving your body, exploring with your sense of touch. It doesn't just have to be your hands that are touching something, but helping reconnect with your body and that sensation of touch, and reminding yourself what is actually happening now. This is what is present, this is what is real, and despite what I'm remembering seeming very, very real and very, very distressing, it is not reoccurring right now. It is scary, but it is in the past, and I have survived it, and I will continue to move forward from it. Our next scent-based grounding skill is smell. Smell is a very, very strong sense. So for things like smell, you can obviously use your pleasant sense to help remind yourself where you are. You can carry a specific scented hand lotion with you, and you can apply that to your hands and sniff your hands, or just smell it from the tube, and that is a very easy thing to carry with you. You can smell a candle, you can smell essential oils, anything that has a very strong smell. It also doesn't necessarily have to be a pleasant smell, it just has to be a strong smell. So like the smell of markers or nail polish remover, or even alcohol, that real coffee, that very, very strong smell that can, see, I don't like the taste of smell of coffee, which is why I put it in unpleasant, but for other people that's pleasant. Point aside, those very strong smells will help snap your brain back into the present and what is currently happening and currently occurring. You can also smell food or drink or yourself, just any smells that you know are positive associations for yourself. It doesn't have to be a good or a bad smell, it can be either, but it just has to be a positive association with your brain. The last of the main senses, your sense of taste. So this will normally involve eating things. So strong tastes, you want those strong tastes. So you want something like mint, so brushing your teeth, mouthwash, chewing gum, mint lollies, that very strong taste. You can go the other direction, you can go sour. So you can have your sour spray, your sour candy, biting into a lemon, anything very, very sour, and biting into that to help click your brain back on. And the final taste-based one is spicy. So spicy sauces, spicy food, anything that is very, very spicy that will again help startle your brain and bring it back to the present day. Okay, with the 5 main senses done, I'm going to move on to the next category, which is body-focused grounding. Your sense of balance. This is a relatively easy, well, I say that, a relatively easy one to balance, but there are some things that are harder to balance, and it takes a lot of concentration, and that requires, like, you can make it easier by using more fingers, but requires you to focus, and also it helps require your body to be steady. You can balance things on your head. You can also balance yourself, so whether that's standing on one foot, like balancing on a chair, making sure that you're not going to hurt yourself if you do fall, but helping to focus on your body on a way that isn't necessarily your body sensations. I'm not sure if you could notice before, but when we were focusing on specifically like taste and body sensations, that can bring up a lot of distressing feelings and memories with that connection. So finding a way to connect with our body, which was through balance, which is then focusing on our body in a way that isn't focusing on our body sensations per se, really, really helped. So yeah, our sense of balance, and then also our sense of movement. So that is things like swinging on a swing, dancing, pacing, stretching. If you're very, very still, just squeezing specific muscles and focusing on getting that movement back into the body, which can really help, especially if you're someone who is prone to freeze responses, and to help bring you out of those freeze responses, finding safe and accessible movements that work for you. Hey everybody, it's Ash, and we entirely forgot a subcategory underneath body focus grounding is your very simple getting your basic needs met. If you are full, if you are hydrated, if you are well rested, if you are clean, and if you have had your social connections and your social needs met, you are more likely to be more grounded because your body physically is doing better,
And so it is less likely to dissociate away from itself, or the brain is less likely to dissociate from the body, I should say. So if you're chronically dissociated day after day after day after day, it could be because, like us, you have a dissociative disorder, but also slow it down and check in with your body. Make sure that you are not only eating enough, but eating a variety of foods and getting enough nutrients across the board, and making sure that your body is well fed and taken care of. As well as that, making sure that you are staying hydrated. So drinking enough water, keeping your electrolytes up if that's something you struggle with, and making sure that your body is staying hydrated enough. This is something that we're really bad at doing. This is stuff that you will help dissociation, doesn't necessarily mean it's stuff that we're good at doing. The next one, and a real big one for us, is making sure that we're well rested. If we are not getting enough sleep, we are going to be significantly more dissociated, specifically more derealized than we otherwise would be. And then, as I said, making sure that you're clean, so you're showering regularly, you're brushing your teeth, you're keeping up your basic hygiene, you're brushing your hair. Because when your body feels uncomfortable to exist within, when it's dirty, you're not going to want to connect to it. Your brain is naturally going to pull away and you're going to be more dissociated. And I know how hard hygiene is. It's something that we really struggle with personally. And it's not something that is easy to keep on top of when you struggle with mental health conditions and when you struggle with different disabilities. But if you can keep on top of it, it is going to help improve your dissociation. Same again with your social interactions. Humans are social creatures. As much as it can be very hard to trust people and to connect with people, and you just want to pull inwards and isolate, connecting with other people will likely be beneficial. We feel the most grounded when we are in a social situation with people that we trust, and we're laughing and we're having fun and we're sharing stories and we're having a good time. That is some of the most grounded we feel ever in our life. And it's not even necessarily because just one alter is fronting. When we're in these situations, it tends to be co-con rapid switching because everybody's trying to chip in. Everybody has something to say. And whilst there might be one alter in the front, there's a whole Rolodex of alters in the background. But we're still grounded. We're still present with our friends. We're still present in those social interactions. And that is because we're getting our social needs met. Then you take a step back from the basic human necessities and just go for the fun sensations. So for us, fizzy drinks can be very, very grounding, specifically if it's flavors that we really like. This is one of our favorite fizzy drinks. It's a feijoa, which is a fruit, for those who don't know, because it's not a very common fruit. It's the best fruit in the fucking world, and Australia doesn't have it, and I miss it. But anyway, it's feijoa and apple, and it's really fucking good. So having something fizzy can help, whether it might be, for someone else, it might be a cold drink, it might be a hot drink, it might be a coffee, it might be a tea, it might be a lemonade, it might be something with ice cubes in it, it might be something that's really sweet or something that's quite bitter. Whatever works for you, a flavor that you really like and that helps bring you back to the present. Kind of how we mentioned with like taste, but something with that physical sensation as well. So those fizzy bubbles, that really hot temperature, that really cold temperature. And then when it comes to your foods, having those food textures rather than tastes. So something that is very chewy, or something that is like ice cream or pudding that's really smooth, yogurt. Whether it's something like chewing gum and that's their action of consistently chewing. Anything that is getting your body and your brain focused on the actions of eating and drinking and what's going on in your body can be very, very helpful. And the final one that we forgot to mention is temperature in general. So there's a few different ways this can look. If you're somebody who finds cold very grounding, you can squeeze ice cubes until they melt. You can have one in your mouth. Don't chew it on your teeth because you can damage your teeth, but you can just hold it in your mouth. You can hold it against the palms of your hand. If you're really trying to snap yourself out of it, you can put it in like your armpits or the backs of your elbows, the backs of your knees, the bottom of your feet, where it's very, very sensitive, and it's going to click your body very quickly into what's going on in the physical sensations of your body. Similar to that, an ice pack, frozen peas, frozen veggies, frozen chips, back of the neck. That will also really quickly snap your brain back into the body and the physical sensations that are going on. And so keeping something like that in your freezer can be very, very beneficial. You've then also got the classics: cold shower, running cold water over your hands, anything that has to do with cold water. A lot of people find it very helpful to put a bowl of cold water or ice water and then put their face in it. And I think that's called, I don't remember what it's called, but it sets up a specific reflex in your body and will again help snap you back into reality, snap you back to where you are. If you are someone with water-based trauma though, don't do that one. It will likely bring you into a flashback and likely make things worse. So make sure that you're only using ones that are safe for your body and for your system. And if you're unsure if you have specific trauma or unsure about specific triggers, start with safer or more comfortable grounding skills and then expand outwards and practice them when you are in a safe environment to practice new skills. The other one that has to do with cold is sitting in front of a fan. So blasting a fan full force in your face or on the back of your head and feeling that cold air and focusing on that cold air, focusing on the way that it might make your hair move. If you have longer hair, focus on the way that it really feels on your skin and really sit in that cold. It will be uncomfortable, but that uncomfortable is in the present moment, in the present day, and it will help reorient yourself. Then on the other end of your spectrum, you've got warmth. So for us, the really big warm grounding one for us is sitting in the sun. Doesn't do so well for us in summer because it's really hot, but now it's getting more towards autumn and winter. We can sit in the sun and the environment around us is cool, but not super cold, but the sun is warm on our skin and we can feel where it is warm on our skin and we can track that feeling in our body. And that's really helpful. Other things that when it comes to warmth is getting your hot drink, your coffee, your tea, your hot chocolate, and holding onto it and feeling that warmth in your hands. Smelling it as well so that you're then engaging multiple senses at the same time and really focusing on that heat. And then again, you can have your hot showers, you can have your heating pads, your hot water bottles, even something like a dog or a cat whose body temperatures run warmer than yourselves, and holding onto that warm thing, clutching onto that warmth and orienting yourself to that temperature difference. Right, I think that's all of the main grounding skills that we missed, but as you can see, we missed some when we were filming the first time. I've probably forgotten some now. There are plenty more grounding skills out there, but I'm going to throw you back to past beans and I'm going to finish up the video. Tempest also forgot an entire category that I'm going to do now, which we call cognitive grounding. So this is brain-based skills. So the first cognitive grounding one is counting, and that can be your very simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or it can be counting by multiples, so that might be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 24, 27, 30. It might be counting backwards, so 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It might be counting backwards in multiples. This is going to be harder, but 30, 27, 24, 21. I think I forgot 21 when I was counting up, but that's okay. 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3. Or it can be counting in another language, if you know another language. My pronunciation of Maori, as you can tell by me trying to say that, is shit. My pronunciation is terrible. But I do know what the numbers are. So I like to count to 10 in Maori. So that's, and again, my pronunciation is terrible. Don't try and learn this from me. Please try and listen to like actual native Maori speakers. But tahi, rua, toru, fa, rima, unu, fitu, waru, iwa, tako. Counting in another language then also helps because it's another step in your brain to help. Using your brain, accessing those skills, accessing those memories helps bring you into the present and not be stuck in the past or just be stuck dissociated. Not all dissociation is being in a flashback. It could just also be not being present, being stuck in the heavy fog cloud of nothing is real, I'm not real, everything is slightly off kilter. It can also help with that. It doesn't just have to help with flashbacks, but I personally use it mostly for flashbacks because I am prone to having flashbacks being a trauma holder. The next cognitive grounding skill involves dice. So as many or as few dice as you feel capable of, and you roll them all together, and then you can do a couple of different things. So say I was to roll these 3 dice. I got a 6, a 6, and a 4. So I could do addition, and I could go 6 plus 4. Yeah, 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 6 is 16. Or I could do multiplication, and I could do 6 times 6 is 36, and then 36 times 4, 12 plus 2 is 4, so it's 144. Maybe. Anyway, I had to use my brain. The point is you're using your brain. The point is you're getting too distracted by the numbers, you're too focused on the numbers, which then helps bring you around.
You can use different colored dice as well. So say you could use 2 white dice and then like a red dice, and you could add the white dice together and then subtract the red dice. Change it up to however you like to do maths, if you like to do maths. Most people hate doing maths. But this might be something that's helpful for you. Moving away from numbers and into words. One of the grounding skills that we do is we play Scrabble with ourselves. And we don't verse different alters. It's not like, I, Maisie, am versing Astral. We just play. We just have 2 boards, like 2 boards of letters set up, and we alternate between the 2 boards, and we just try and get as many words as we can. And that does take longer, but it does really, really help us. And it helps get us thinking. We have a dictionary that we check for spelling because we're abysmal at spelling, but that's a really, really good one for us. But you don't necessarily have to play with yourself. You can play it with somebody else as well, if there is somebody else who is available to play Scrabble with you, or other word games like Bananagrams or Boggle. Yeah, Boggle, anything like that. The next one is categories, so making lists of things. So we like to have it slightly structured, so we'll pick alphabetical. So then we'll try and name a fruit for every letter of the alphabet going in alphabetical order. Or we'll try to name a country for every letter of the alphabet, or an animal, and have that kind of structure of making lists. Or sometimes it'll be easier to do preferential things, so we might rank all the colors in the rainbow from our top preference to our least to our least favorite. Or we might make a list of interests that we have or hobbies that we have. Just any of that kind of listing and getting your brain thinking and forming opinions on things, which it can be very, very hard to form opinions on things when you are dissociated, especially if you're someone who experiences fragmentation. It can be very, very hard for more fragmented parts, elaborated parts to have complex opinions, to have complex, like that analysis of things can be very, very hard for parts who are more prone to experiencing flashback than experiencing reality. And so having a way that is structured and non-judgmental and relatively easy to start practice forming opinions can be very, very beneficial for those more dissociated and less elaborated parts. Hi everybody, it is Astral. So the next category we have is environment, and whilst a lot of these skills that we've already gone over can help you ground into your environment, we specified environment and self because we want to focus specifically on derealization and depersonalization. So derealization is your disconnection from your environment, that is from the things going on around you and the present day. So this is feeling like the world is too big or too small, like you are in a video game, like the world is hazy, like it is desaturated, like everything kind of has a weird buzzy effect over it. It's all of that ways in which the world doesn't quite feel real, like it feels like a dreamlike state. And it can present different ways for different people, and it can even present different ways for one individual based on their current experience of derealization. And so your skills that are going to help you the most with derealization are the ones that are going to get you connecting with your environment. So that is a lot of your sense-based skills, and also that involves, like, sometimes for us, what helps the most with derealization is just laying on the ground, like face first on the ground, and just reminding ourselves that this is real, where we are is real, what is happening is real. And as much as this feels like a dream, as confusing as it feels, as disconnected as we feel, there is a reason for it. We have a complex and chronic dissociative disorder. Just because it doesn't feel real right now doesn't mean that it isn't real, and doesn't mean that it won't feel real again. And reminding ourselves that these experiences of dissociation are temporary and they will ease and we will be okay. I'm not going to go into any specific derealization skills because those are kind of covered by your sense-based grounding and your body-based grounding. And then the final one is grounding into your sense of self. So this is for when you're depersonalized. And so when you are a dissociated system, depersonalization runs fucking rampant, at least for us. We so often don't know who we are, or don't quite feel like ourselves, or just feel off. Like, yes, I know I'm astral at the moment, but I'm still not quite myself. There's still influence from other parts. There's still just this level of, I don't really feel like a person. I don't really feel like myself. That's just pretty much a constant experience for us. It gets worse and it gets better.
but it is so chronic for us as a system. But there are some things that help with our depersonalization. Some of these, again, will be your body but focused grounding skills, and also some of your cognitive grounding skills. But the ones that have really helped us is, I guess it's kind of a form of journaling, but it's listing facts about ourselves. If we know we're one person in front, we'll just grab a piece of paper and we'll write down everything I know about myself. So I would write down, say I didn't know my name, but I was trying to work out who I am. Like, I know I'm in my early 20s. I know my favorite color is blue. I know I have red hair. I know I front a lot. I know I have memories from high school. I know I have a lot of memories socializing with friends. I know that I really prioritize connection. I know that I really like cats. I know my favorite animals are African wild dogs. Just writing down everything that I can recall about myself at that present time. And then I can use that information to line up with our system lists that we have on our laptop, in our Discord servers, in our journals, on Simply Plural, in our spreadsheets. They're all spread out. They're very chaotic. None of them are up to date. But I can then line that information up that I've recalled about myself with those different sources and go, oh, Astral really likes African wild dogs. Do I feel like Astral? I do feel like Astral. I just feel like I'm dissociated. And then teasing that apart and then helping reconnect with who I am. But that reconnection can get a lot more difficult and a lot more hard to understand when you have multiple parts blended into front at once. Also, my hand is on a mind episode right now. It's conducting this conversation. But when we have multiple parts blended in together in front, then we go through that same process, but we use different colored pens or different colored pencils. And we assign a different color to a different feeling. And not as in a different emotion, but as in a different sense of self. So I might assign blue to myself, and then I might assign red to another presence that is nearby, and then I might assign green to a different presence that is nearby. And then I will write down the different traits that are aligned with that specific individual. So again, I'll write all of my information down in blue, but then I might be like, there's someone here who is 60, so I'll write that down in red. They have memories of fostering animals, so I'll write that down in red. They feel very feminine, so I'll write that down in red. And just write anything that feels like attached to them down in red. And then in green, I might write there's somebody very young. They are a boy, maybe. They like to paint. They like monkeys. And then I just write down anything that comes attached to them. And it might come down all in a flow of one color each, and you just get a bunch of information about one person. Or it might be all mixed together and quite hard to differentiate, quite hard to tear apart. And you have to kind of very slow it down, which is really hard for me to do as our host. I speed through things. I don't connect with the system as much as I should, but slow it down, pace yourself, and then work it out. You will have to excuse us. Firstly, not a single clue in the world who I am. Can't be bothered working it out. Secondly, our phone ran out of storage, so I had to stop. I'm going to have to refilm that last part. Before we wrap up, I wanted to show a live display of what grounding looks like or can look like. We've been grounding throughout this video. Being in front of a camera does cause us to dissociate. And also often because lots of us want to contribute to the video, lots of us have different thoughts, lots of people are throwing stuff forward for the fronter to say and share, we can get quite dissociated when filming. And there is a constant cycle of us grounding. It's why we have our weighted lap blanket. It's why we have our fidgets. Yes, they regulate us and our nervous system because we're autistic and have ADHD, but they also help us they also help us viscerally ground because of the chronic dissociation we have. Earlier in this video, you will have noticed that Tempest switched out and Macy switched in. And that was it wasn't the most dissociated switch that we have, but it also wasn't the smoothest switch. And Maisie used a lot of the grounding skills that we used or talked about in this video. So I wanted to add that on at the end to show what grounding can look like in action, utilizing multiple skills in conjunction with each other. When one's not working, trying another one. When one kind of works, moving on to the next one to help further that grounding. And to show an example of what that can look like in action. So I hope that that can also be helpful to see. Somebody younger's around.
safe. Um, we are safe. We are okay. It is May 2025. It is May 2025. I am safe. I am safe. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, brown, black, white, tan, grey. I am safe. I am safe. Who is I? Who am I? Younger-ish. Younger teenager. Maisie, but a younger Maisie. Okay. My name is Maisie. And I am safe. Thank you. Grounding the senses. Okay.
I hope that example of what grounding can look like was enlightening and informative and might give you some ideas of what it can actually look like in practice. I hope that the skills we've discussed in these videos can be useful for yourself, whether that's some of them or all of them, or even if it's none of them, and just giving you ideas and starting points of what to try. Because things are not always going to work. You are not always going to be able to ground fully. I cannot ground at the moment into one specific altar because that's not what's needed. What is needed is a superbus. So we are a superbus, but we're still a little bit more grounded into the present because of the grounding skills that we've been using. They don't have to work 100%, and they will not always work in every single situation, because sometimes your brain is just going to disconnect and it's going to refuse every single attempt you have to ground yourself. That doesn't mean those grounding skills are useless. It doesn't mean that they will never work. It just means that in some situations they won't work. There's more. There's so many more grounding skills actually that we just didn't mention. This is already a long video. So if you have more grounding skills that we didn't use or mention within this video, please let us know in the comments section. Share some of your favorite ones. Share about some of the ones that you saw in this video that you haven't used that you might try using. And I really, really hope that it can help you feel more present, more grounded, more real, like the world is more real. And when all of that is more real, yes, it can be more painful. Yes, it can be harder. Yes, it can be more terrifying. But also those positives, that love, that connection, that joy of existence is also so much stronger and so much more real. And it makes life worth living. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. We will see you next time. Not in June. We're taking June off. We'll see you in July. Goodbye.